Thanks for tuning in to Proline TV. We are live. It is about 4:30 Eastern on Wednesday. We had a show that unfortunately was postponed with some technical difficulties at the Dom DeMarco's restaurant in Las Vegas. So unfortunately, we weren't able to get that show live on the air. But I guess this is what happens time to time. Technology is what it is. It's never 100%. As soon as we get more information, we will let you know. But you can rest be sure those guys will be back at it once again a week from today. Okay, so what we're going to do here on the show, and I branded the new name for the show, and that is going to be called now. What did I call the new show? I don't even remember what I called the new show. It's too new. I called it Proline Picks Wednesdays. So pretty simple explanation with that title. We're going to give our picks in the NFL and college football today. Of course, we're going to be on the Playbook ATS podcast tomorrow at 1 o'clock Eastern time with Mark Lawrence, Andy Iskoe, and I. Jim will have the day off. And then on Friday, hopefully, it'll be the first show where Mark, Jim, and I will get together on Friday at about 2:30 Eastern time. And we'll give our final picks and analysis as we head into the weekend. Okay, so let's get started. We're going to talk some NFL now. Let's get the NFL on board. And, of course, the Thursday game this week is the game that most people believe will be a blowout between Miami and Buffalo. But this is a game I would just stay away from because if you take a look at the series between Miami and Buffalo, Bills have won 6 straight against the Dolphins, which is no big surprise. But the Dolphins have covered 3 of the last 6. We saw their offense come to life last week, and that means that offense can be dangerous. They could score against the Bills, and therefore 12 points in my mind, or potentially 13. I think that's a little bit too much to give. Look, if I was going to take the game, I'd clearly take the Bills. The Dolphins are just 3-10 against the spread. Their last 13 is a road dog, 0-1 in that spot this year. Okay, let's take a look at the rest of the NFL week number 3. This game is interesting because even though I'm not going to take it, and that's because the Packers are only 1-8 against the spread in their last 9 as a road favorite of more than 3. So this has not been a really good spot for the Packers, even though they've won and covered both games this year very impressively. And, of course, the Browns got beat up badly last week at Baltimore, and I'm sure there are a lot of fans who are already hoping to just get the season over with, get that top draft pick, draft that top future quarterback, and move on. The Browns do not have a good trend, though. So I'm just going to smack this right at you, too, if you were thinking of jumping all over the Browns based on what I just told you with the Packers. The Browns are just 3-17 against the spread in their last 20 games when they take on an opponent with a win percentage of 800 or better. And that's what they're going to be doing on Sunday. They're 0-1 in that spot already this year, losing to Baltimore last week. So, yeah, again, same thing. If I was going to take the game, I take the Packers. But, I've seen teams, good teams, go into Cleveland the last few years when the Browns haven't been all that great. And they don't play well. I don't know if it's just, it's the Browns and they're not mentally ready for the game, but I have seen it. So that's the reason why I am a little bit apprehensive to go into this one and take the Packers. But I definitely would be going down that road. And who knows, maybe in a few days I'll change my mind. It's early in the week. It's only Wednesday. So there is an opportunity for me to maybe think more about it. And if I was talking these first 2 games, these first 2 big lines, I'd probably take the Packers before I take the Bills. So it's just that 1-8 spot kind of concerns me just a little bit. And I kind of feel like the Packers too, if they win this game, they're probably going to win it ugly, and they can still cover ugly. I don't know, sort of like they're due for a letdown. The big game against the Lions, Parsons and all that. And then last week, national TV. So, it's a come down game. So, but they probably will at some point, maybe late in the game, cover if they need to. All right. The Falcons and Carolina. Now, this one, I think, this is also a tricky game because Atlanta's not all that great of a spread team. They did cover and play impressively on on Sunday night against the Vikings. The Vikings just really the entire game plan and it just wasn't a good day for the Vikings. Good night for the Vikings. These two teams have split the last 5 years. All right, so just keep that in mind. And you are getting 2-1 on the money line. And check this out: the Panthers have covered 11 straight games as dogs of 5 or more when they take on a team coming off an upset win. That's what the Falcons are coming in. That's 11 straight. You also have a Carolina team, home opener, desperate, 0-2, division game. So, I don't think it's the worst idea for a potential upset. The thing, of course, that everybody is going to realize, if they haven't realized yet, we talked about it on Monday, the Panthers lost 2 really key offensive linemen. And we saw the ramifications of it late in that game against Arizona, where Bryce Young was just really in trouble. Everybody knew he was going to pass, though. There's that. But it's a division game. It's a big number. It's a desperate Carolina team. I probably actually would go with the Panthers in this one because I still feel the Panthers might have something in the tank there. And I think Bryce Young played a lot better on Sunday than he did week 1 in that matchup. So I'm going to give Carolina a shot. And again, if I'm looking for an upset, that's what I'm thinking about. Everybody's going to watch this one. The Rams and the Eagles. The spread now has dropped down to 3 and 3.5, excuse me. The money line was like 185 about 24 hours ago. That was juicy. Now down to about 155, depending on the book, of course. Rams have won and covered both games. Now check this out. The Eagles are 13-1 against the spread when they take on an opponent off back-to-back straight-up ATS wins. That is an impressive trend line. They've also beaten the Rams 3 times since the 2023 season, including the playoff game last year. They beat them twice last year. They were a 7-point favorite when they beat them in the playoff game. They won by 6. And the Eagles have also covered 6 straight as a non-division favorite of 2 or more points when they take on a team with a 500 or better record. It's only 3. Wow. Defending champs, home, only 3. I know there's a lot to like about the Rams. You would think that, hey, the Rams is a good spot for them. And I will say this: if the Eagles don't start throwing the football better, because their passing game has done nothing with this new offensive coordinator the first 2 weeks. They've done nothing. So now comes a Ram defense as good as the Chiefs defense. So, and anytime you're given points, it's probably why the points have come down. The Eagles are I think they're looking at the Eagles now and they're going, well, if they're not going to have an explosive offense, at least yet, it's only week 3 coming up, then every point matters. All right, moving on. Yeah, this is embarrassing. I don't know why anybody would take the Jets this week. The only reason that I think that, and I think there are 3 situations like this where you want to keep an eye on, and that's the backup quarterback starting. We'll talk more about this tomorrow with Mark. It's the backup quarterback bump. And that means that any team where you go to the backup quarterback, statistically speaking, the averages are on your side in that very first start. It's only the first start. It's not 100%, nothing like that, but the averages are better than 50%. They're on your side, meaning I would take all 3 teams this week. I mean, that would be the strategy, but I can't believe I would say to take the Jets. But I'm not going to take the Jets, so I'm not going to say that. So maybe scratch the 3 teams, take 2. But the Jets are just 2-7 ATS last 9 on the road, as a road dog, excuse me. And I could already see it, okay? I could already see it. The promo's ready. Next week, a week from today, can you see ESPN put the commercial out there for their Monday night matchup between the 0-3 Dolphins and the 0-3 Jets? Yeah. That's awful. Bucks, of course, are off to a great start, winning both games straight up and against the spread, doing it on the road in both games. They are playing Philly next week. So you do have a little bit of a sandwich game situation here, but I don't think it'll matter. Even if Tampa Bay is a little bit sluggish early on in the game, if they need to win, they'll win. And I guess the question is, will they cover? Again, you get the backup quarterback bump for the Jets. I will say this, though, what a big blow for the Tampa Bay Bucks to lose Kalijah Kancey for the year. They've already lost a big rookie edge rusher. Now, they have big plans for him. Now they lose Kancey. This is not a team that has a lot of pass rushers. They don't have great pass rusher depth. And they lose two big pass rushing options. You might see the Bucs making a deal at the deadline because I think they're going to look at the situation. If Baker keeps playing like this, and don't forget, about 2 months ago, Jim Feist and I, when we previewed the South, the NFC South, we had the Bucs. Matter of fact, Jim even placed a bet on the Bucs. I think it was Super Bowl bet, which was, I don't know what it was at the time, 30-1, something like that. And Baker Mayfield MVP, 25-1. That's looking awfully good right now after week 2. So I think this Bucs management, they're pretty smart. And I think they're going to realize by the deadline, we need to get in some edge rushers here. We just can't. We have to get Baker Mayfield as much backup as possible to make a run. And if they do that, I don't know if they can do it without these guys. I mean, it's really asking a lot. Of course, they're going to get Wirfs back. That's going to happen anytime now. So we'll see. But yeah. All right, next up. Colts 4.5 here. It's actually a little tricky because it is the road opener for the Colts. We'll see how they play on the road. They're also 2-11 against the spread as a favorite of 3 or more when they take on an opponent off a double-digit straight-up loss. The Titans, though, why would anybody take the Titans? The Titans are now 4-19 in their last 23 games, and they're 3-16 against the spread in their last 19. I mean, why would you take the Titans? So the question is, do you bet the game and then therefore take the Colts? Well, I don't see any reason why not. The Colts have beaten the Titans the last 2 years. They're 4-0, straight up ATS. But how are they going to react off of the gift that they were given on Sunday? Maybe Maybe, hey, this is our season. We got a 2-game lead on Houston now. And we're taking on a team that we have to beat in this division. And it's only 4.5. It's not a lot of points. Of course, you're going to take the Colts. I think that's the way to go. Raiders and Washington. Now, this game is a game I like. I like the Colts as well. That's definitely a game in the Wise Guy contest this week. I actually like – I'm off to a much better start in college, which is not a surprise. I'm more of a college guy. We'll get to that college in a little bit. And it's been all college so far in the Wise Guy contest. Basically Vanderbilt both weeks. But in the NFL, it's trying to figure things out. I didn't really like lines yet, but this week I like several lines. This is one of them. This is now you talk about backup bump quarterback. This is the perfect one to take because there's a playoff team. Okay. Unlike the Jets, this is a playoff team. You get a playoff team with Marcus Mariota, who's more than capable of coming off the bench and playing well for a game. They're playing the Raiders, okay, the Raiders are getting way too much pub last week against the Chargers. I didn't understand it, but everybody voices their own opinion, and heck, I'm wrong as much as anybody. But now it's a playoff team again. Well, even Chargers were playoff team, but they didn't sure look good last year. Washington, though, another playoff team. This one on the road. Yeah, they went on the road week 1. Now it's the Patriots, okay? Here it's Washington. And this line is dropped from 6 to 3. It was a 6.5, 3. There's 3 points. But I got to tell you, I actually thought the opening line was a little low. So I think this whole thing is low. Like, why were they only a 6.5 point favorite against the Raiders? Now, I'm not saying it's 10, but I expected a little bit more. So here, you lose the quarterback, and I still expected only a couple of points, maybe a point and a half. Not that Jaden Daniels is a good player, but once again, I mean, it's the Raiders. You really want to say that Marcus Mariota is not more than capable of a playoff team to beat the Raiders by more than 3 points? So I'm all over the Washington Commanders in this one. I like the quarterback backup bump. They're also 7-2 against the spread as a home favorite since Dan Quinn took over last year, including week 1 in their win and cover against the Giants. This is going to be a fun game. We get the 2 backup quarterbacks. So, but there's no bump for Browning because Browning played and did a okay job. Because don't forget, he turned the ball over a lot, but hey, did what he had to do at the right moment and won the game. But Jacksonville kind of lost that game. You know, they went for it on the 4th down, and here's the funny thing: they go to Brian Thomas on the play. He drops the ball. He's having a terrible game. He drops the ball. We then find out after the game that Brian Thomas has like a wrist injury, and the coach Cohen is talking about, well, yeah, if he played, he's good, whatever. But he did also, hey, yeah, you know, a little banged up because he's trying to protect his player who had a bad day. Well, then why are you throwing to him on 4th down, the biggest play of the game, the play that ends the game? Why are you throwing the ball to the guy with the wrist injury who's having a bad game and can't catch the ball when we know how good the player is from last year? He's obviously not the same player so far this year. So I don't know if this is a lingering injury or what this is, but that's bad coaching. Bengals now go to Minnesota after the win and take on a Viking team. Again, it wasn't J.J. McCarthy. The whole team just did not play well. They weren't coached well. It was a bad for the Vikings. But now they get the backup bump to Carson Wentz. Just like Washington, I love this backup quarterback bump. You got a playoff team. You got a veteran quarterback that has been through the wars. So I get Mariota and I get Wentz. Those are my 2 backup quarterback bumps I'm going to really ride with this week. And now I don't know what's going to happen if Carson Wentz comes out and plays like Sam Darnold. What happens? You know what? I don't think O'Connell cares. I'll worry about that when the time comes. I think he's going to do just fine, especially because he gets to play the Bengals defense. So I think Wentz is going to have a big game, and I think he's going to get this Viking team charged up. Confidence is going to be back. And I think this is going to help McCarthy too. I think it's always good for younger quarterbacks. So we saw it last year with Bryce Young. Many times, now it's not all the time, but many times, this is really good for the young quarterback that is a little bit, he's got confidence issues or something, it's just not clicking, and he's got to take a seat. Normally it's injury-wise, but like McCarthy's situation, and I think it'll be just fine for him. And I do expect, even if Wentz has a couple of really good games and McCarthy's ready, McCarthy's going to play. He's the future of the franchise. They're not going to put him through that. They're just not. That doesn't mean that if he comes in, doesn't play well for a week or two, that they won't go back to Wentz. But trust me, they'll play McCarthy if he's healthy. But in this particular spot, I think Wentz is going to have a big day, a big game, and the Bengals have already gotten up their 2-game lead. So I think it's time for them to lose, and I think they will. So, and this is also, keep this in mind, Minnesota is going to be going overseas for the next couple of weeks. So they're going to be in Ireland against Pittsburgh, and they're going to be in London against Cleveland. So that's their next 2 matchups as they take on 3 consecutive AFC North teams. No Baltimore. I don't know when they play Baltimore, but Baltimore's not in there. Let's see. This is Lux pickup. Are you talking about a quarterback? And if so, what kind of league are you talking about? And are you talking about, I'm assuming you're talking about free agents that are out there right now. Are you in a regular year-to-year league? Is it a situation where you just can drop a player and pick up a player? You don't have to put any, money down. You're not competing against anyone financially. I know that there are several free agent quarterbacks available in my league, and nobody picked them up. One was Wentz. Another one was Browning. This is year-to-year league. In my dynasty league, man, they paid big money for Browning and good money for Wentz. But that's the dynasty league. So in the year-to-year league, they're still available. Stroud was still available in my league. Who else? Russell Wilson was still available in my league. I think that's it. So if that's what you're talking about, Lux, I'd say definitely go to Wentz. Absolutely Wentz. Pick him up. The Bengals defense is terrible. You still have some really good players there with the Vikings. Number one being Justin Jefferson. And with Aaron Jones' injury, the Vikings probably could throw the ball a little bit more than they're used to. Especially, why wouldn't you against the Bengals? So if that's what if that's what you're talking about, then absolutely go to Carson Wentz. All right, next. All right, Pittsburgh is a short favorite in this one. And I'm going to definitely, this is one of those that I just have no reason to go with this game. This is going to be a tough one to handicap. You have a Patriot team that very, very lucky. They didn't start out 0-2. Steeler team that got banged up on the defensive side in the game against Seattle, and it paid them. It just was not good for them. You could see at the end of that game that they were just wearing down. And this is interesting. Mike Tomlin, get this. He's 10-25 against the spread in his career when he's favored versus first-year head coaches. Okay? And he's 0-1 in this spot this year, losing to Aaron Glenn. Well, again, losing the spread to Aaron Glenn and the Jets. Pittsburgh, though, hasn't covered either game. They're also heading to Ireland, as I mentioned, with Minnesota. So the big game for Pittsburgh before they make the trip. They don't want to start out 1-2 either. Anyway, look, I still think Pittsburgh's a better team than the Patriots. I really don't understand the game plan with the Patriots last week, even though it worked and they scored a lot of points. It was just kind of weird. They just ran the ball and ran the ball and ran the ball. And the Dolphins, look, they don't have a good defense, but especially they don't have a good secondary. I think what it was the strength of the Dolphins is the pass rush. So that was probably the game plan, is let's just limit the pass rush and we'll run the ball. And it worked early. And so they just stuck with it because they got off to the lead. Now, if they were down early, a couple scores, then they probably just go out and throw the ball around. But looks like they were protecting Drake May a little bit. They don't put too much pressure on him. Yeah, I don't know. Definitely take a look at the injury report for Pittsburgh. You have to take a look at it. It's only Wednesday, though. It's real early. Yeah, it's just a tough one to handicap. I take the Steelers, but it's nothing that I'm jumping through hoops for. Now, I'm definitely high on Houston this week. So you have a Houston team desperate at 0-2, and they've only lost both games by a combined 6 points. So they've dropped both games straight up and against the spread. They have owned Jacksonville. This is why I really like this game. They have beaten them 12 out of 14 games, and they're the dog in the game. So I love that situation. They're also 9-3 straight up the last 2 years in the division. They get Christian Kirk back, who has not been there the last 2 weeks. Stroud is not a bad, you were talking about Lux, you were talking about quarterbacks to pick up. Stroud's not a bad idea either. Let's say Wentz is not available. I'd probably look at Stroud. And I'd probably do it over Browning, because Browning against Minnesota is not a good mix. Minnesota's got a real good defense. In this situation, we know Jacksonville, as we saw last week, they could be beaten. They're a good defense, though. Jacksonville's got a good pass rush. There's there's talent there to like with Jacksonville, but Houston's a better team. They're the defending champs, 2 years going, and their backs are against the wall. So I love the Texans in this spot. Jags are 3-8 against the spread. Their last 11 as a home favorite on top of that. So that's I think that's the way to go. Speaking of games I love, I don't know why this game is only 7.5, but I'll take it. And the only thing I don't want to hear by the end of the week, when I'm about to watch the game or Sunday comes and I'm about to make, or I've made all of my picks, I've put money on all these games, and I'm getting ready, and I'm hearing everybody loves the Seattle Seahawks, because there's nothing more that I hate than being on the side that everybody likes. Because that's kind of the way it was last week with the Jet game. By the time I got to the end of the week, And that's why as soon as I was watching the game, and as soon as Fields missed an open Wilson, which would have been an easy first down, momentum right away. And then as soon as Clemens gets the 15-yard penalty to go from a field goal attempt to a touchdown drive, I knew the game was over, and I basically stopped watching. I'm like, I've been down this road before. I'm too old to watch my team lose a stinker. And I didn't have to worry about it because I had so many other games to watch. And every time I kept checking back, they just kept, the deficit got larger, and I knew what was going to happen anyway. The point is that everybody really got on the Jet bandwagon last week. And not to win the game necessarily, but to be a very competitive game. It was a big line. The line even came down on my sports book. I think it came down to like 5.5. It was like 6.5 at one point. So that's why I don't want to hear any of that stuff, on Sunday morning. Oh, everybody loves the Seattle Seahawks. Because I could see that line going up to 8.5 on game day. Look, the fact is, look, New Orleans, we all know, we knew it before the season, not a good team. Okay, fine. They were competitive against a couple of decent teams, San Francisco and Arizona, even though it was Mac Jones with San Francisco. But they lost both games because they're not a good team. And now they're on the road. And that's the big difference now. They're on the road. So, you can say what you want. It's not the NBA. I even though I haven't paid attention to the NBA in a while, political reasons. But speaking of the NBA, that's home court advantage, very big. And football, though, matters, but it's not the NBA. This is Seattle. This is like one of the best places for home field advantage. If your team's going well, they've already lost their home opener. They're not losing this one. This game should be over, I say, by halftime. And so 7 points, I have absolutely no problem with this. And they also want to get this game over with quickly because they're going to be playing a short week coming up. They've got Arizona on the road, major game. The momentum from the Pittsburgh win is going to be really big. So I think this is going to be the Saints' first blowout loss of the season. Chargers. I'm going to keep riding the Chargers. It's my man there, Jim Harbaugh. And I think this is part of the reason why psychologically some people don't want to bet the Chargers. It's Jim Harbaugh. But check him out. He's 6-2 straight up, 7-0-1 against the spread in the division. That's it. That's his career year and 2 games mark in the AFC West. That's Jim Harbaugh. And now he's a 2.5-point favorite at home, which tells me that they're being disrespected. That the Denver Broncos are really a little bit better team than the Chargers. And I get it. That's where most people were in the beginning of the season. Have anybody been watching the season? Bo Nix came out, laid an egg in the opener. They were fortunate to hold on to defeat the Tennessee Titans. Then in the game last week, which they should have won, and Nix had a great game, all of a sudden the defense let him down. They're one of the better defenses in the league, and they did nothing. They made a couple of fourth down stops and, that kind of thing. But overall, they get up almost 30 points in the game to Daniel Jones. Okay, so that was not a good effort by the defense. So they are not playing on all cylinders yet. The Chargers, though, look, the one thing that they're going to have to figure out is the running game. Now, will it be like that all year because of the Slater injury? And that's just going to be the way that it is. And they're going to be throwing the ball all year. And they're going to have to live and die in this situation. Maybe. But I still think from what's so far that we've seen in the first 2 weeks of the season, the Chargers are playing better than the Broncos. They are also at home. I think that matters. Oh, and by the way, home opener. Okay, so home opener for the Chargers. They're 2-0 against the spread this year. They're playing the Broncos, who are 0-2 against the spread this year. And they also swept Denver last year, Jim Harbaugh, of course, with his record sweeping Denver in the division. They were a 3 and 2.5 point favorite last year in both games and won both games by 7 points. I like Dallas in this one. This one, the line is finally moved to Dallas at 1.5. And so if you look at it, That means that Dallas, trend-wise, is a good play. They are 10-1 against the spread as a road favorite after allowing 35 or more. That's a playbook special. And what I mean by playbook specials are those are the weird ones. There you go. It's not like road favorite, home favorite. This is still available. And if you're into gambling, handicapping, and you don't buy this, then I'm sorry that you're missing out. Bears, meanwhile, 0-9 against the spread. Their last 9 after they allow 35 or more versus an NFC opponent. And things are not looking good so far. I'm not surprised. I said this the entire preseason, that the Bears, once again, like last year, are being overrated just because Ben Johnson's there. It's not just Caleb Williams. Look, they'll get it eventually right there because they've got a really good OC coach and a really good DC coach. They will get it right. But it's the same thing like that's going on with the Jets. It's the same thing like maybe you even saw with the Jacksonville team on Sunday and the Giants on Sunday late in the game. There is a confidence issue with certain teams that are just that have just been losing for far too long. And those are all the teams I just mentioned. And this is one of them, the Bears. They have a major confidence issue. That doesn't mean if they win the game on Sunday, they're going to go on a run. It just means that for the most part, until they really have a good season overall, until they have a winning season, until they go on a run, winning 3 out of 4 or 5 out of 6 or something like that, there's still going to be in the back of their minds in big spots. We're just not sure because this is not basketball. This is collectively. You got even though quarterbacks, of course, that could dictate so much in the NFL. I mean, no question about that. You can put a good quarterback on 10 non-playoff teams. And that is the difference from them being a non-playoff team to being a Super Bowl contender. Okay? And I'm not saying the Bears are one of those teams. And the Cowboys already have a good enough quarterback, so we all know it's their defense. But in this spot, I just think the Cowboys are a better team. I just do. And I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt for one game. All right, San Francisco. This line has gone up. Arizona started out as a 1-point favorite. It's now 2.5 San Francisco, and I'm fine with that because I'm going to take Arizona. They swept San Francisco last year, including a Week 5 upset as a 7-point dog in San Francisco. And how about this? They have covered 11 straight as dogs off an ATS loss when they take on an opponent coming in off of a win last week, which San Francisco, of course, did in their win against New Orleans. Okay. San Francisco 2-0 straight up ATS. So I'm not saying that this is an easy play. I'm not sure it's going to be a top play for me this week, but I do think that when you lose several key players on your team, including your starting quarterback, I just think Arizona's a better team. And we said this in the beginning of the season when we were giving our predictions for the NFC West, that I didn't think there was any reason why San Francisco should have been the heavy favorite, even a favorite over the Rams, and that Seattle and Arizona were just as good as San Francisco. The difference was the schedule. Everybody talked about San Francisco's schedule, and we saw last week they got to play the Saints. So that helped them. Even though they had Mac Jones backup, who had a good game because it was the Saints. So this is not the Saints. And Arizona, they had a sloppy win, but they were blowing out Carolina last week. The team was really – it's another team that really just has to put it all together for a full season because Arizona, remember, last year, first half of the season, it looked like they were the team to beat in the NFC West. So I think it's Arizona in this one. And now I'm getting 3. I wouldn't want to be the Giants here with the Chiefs at 0-2. Not good. Look, Russell Wilson's going to have to go up against the Chiefs defense, and Washington's defense gave him problems. So it is the NFL. This is why I say it all the time, every season. You have to wait sometimes it's almost half a season before you can figure teams out because of matchups, because of injuries, because of luck. And we're seeing it here with the Giants. It's 1 week, one matchup, you see what happens. Next week, another matchup, you see what happens. And here we go again. I don't expect them to move the ball much, not against the Chiefs defense. If they do, then that would be pretty dramatic. And maybe all of a sudden we have to start taking the Giants seriously. But come on, the Chiefs are 0-2. Their back's against the wall. They're going to be playing Baltimore next week at home. So you think they want to even think about being in the fourth quarter of a dogfight to go 0-3 when they take on the Ravens next week? I don't think so. So I'm not – look, I don't like giving a lot of points with the Chiefs. As we all know, they haven't been a very good spread team lately. It's the Giants' home opener. They're also, backs against the wall. Both teams are 0-2. But, I got to take the Chiefs. This line in our last game has dropped down to 4.5. And I kind of understand it. But at 4.5, I'd have to really say that, I don't know. Not that I think the line really matters. This is real interesting. Check this out. I think you all know by now that Dan Campbell is a really good spread coach. So how about this? Campbell is 14-8 as a road dog, but he's 0-1 this year. Okay. Detroit is 17-2 against the spread after a double-digit ATS win. 17-2. And they're 19-4 away under Dan Campbell against the spread. All of that sounds awesome. Here's the problem. When they're 17-2 against the spread after a double-digit ATS win, do you want to know what one of those two losses were? At Baltimore. 2023, they lost 38-6. And the spread was 3. Same applies for the road dog number and the away under Campbell number. All of them applied in the loss to the Ravens in 2023. So all of the statistical highs of those numbers I gave you go away, because the one team out of a very few number of teams that where the L resided under those numbers were the Ravens. Same spot in Baltimore. So how do we know that it's just a bad matchup? Maybe it is, because that was with Aaron Glenn and Ben Johnson. Baltimore, check Baltimore's schedule out. After this, they're at Kansas City, host Houston and the Rams. So they're going to be playing some big-time games. Detroit this is a loss. I say this is a loss because I do think Baltimore will beat them. The next two games, I think Detroit should be fine. They host Cleveland and they're at the Bengals. Anyway, so that's a Monday night game, and I hope that number keeps coming down. And that is it for the NFL. So now let's talk some college football. This is the Thursday game. Let's go by conference. All right. So this is now up to 7.5. Arkansas had the tough loss to Ole Miss. They fumbled late. Looked like they were going to win the game. I like this game, though. I still like it because we've got an underrated SEC team that could still be undefeated, taking on a Memphis team that's not the same Memphis team from the past few years. They are still a pretty decent AAC team, and this is a monster game for Memphis, because if Memphis wants to get into the mix, if they want to be part of our board next week, our rankings next week as a group of 5 contender, then they at least need to be in a dogfight here late in the game. Maybe even, I don't know, last second loss, overtime. That'll be enough, and they'll be respected. I know I will. But if Arkansas winds up covering this game and it's not really close, not really, then Memphis, their chances of getting that bid are just not going to happen. Take a look at a couple of things here. One pro, one con for Memphis trend-wise. Here's the pro. They've covered 7 straight as home dogs of more than 5. Okay, so that's good. But 9-1 against the spread off of back-to-back straight-up wins. Okay, so anyway, I still like Arkansas. This is a good one. Jackson Arnold returning to Oklahoma. It's a 6.5-point spread, 2-1 on the money line. Keep an eye on the injury report. Wide receiver Eric Singleton, edge rusher Amarius Williams, and quarterback Jay Crawford for Auburn. Keep an eye. Those are key guys for Auburn. They are 1-13 ATS away when they take on an opponent with a greater than 250 winning percentage off back-to-back spread wins. That's exactly what they're facing in Oklahoma, who beat Auburn last year on the road by 6 as a 1-point road dog. They have covered 8 out of 10 as a home favorite, including with Michigan a couple of weeks ago. I actually like Oklahoma in this spot. I do like what I'm seeing with Auburn. I like what look Auburn. If their defense, if they would have the defense from last year with Jackson Arnold this year, they'd be championship contender. They'd be SEC, all that. But the defense just is not yet like that. They're good defense. Auburn has good defense, but they're not a dominating defense yet. Just too much talent lost. And I just think that you got an Oklahoma team that has better. They're just better defensively. And Mateer is just a better quarterback than Arnold. I like the Arnold story, but Mateer's just better. So the only thing that the main thing that Auburn is going for them is the team rallying around the quarterback that is being such a big part of changing everything that's going on there with the program. Because when the season started, a lot of people thought that this was going to be it for Hugh Freeze. It's over. They are going to things are not going to go well, and then you're going to get rid of them, and it's over. Well, that didn't happen, or none of that talk is happening because Jackson Arnold has given them life. The quarterback situation the last few years under Freeze, awful. Now they got a quarterback. Okay, so I think they're going to rally around this kid as much as possible, and it's that kind of rallying cry that is going to keep him in this game. So I like Oklahoma, but I'm going to have a hard time maybe pulling the trigger just because Auburn, because this is college, and I put so much into college into emotion, the emotion of the game. It's so important. You don't see that with the numbers. And that's why following college football or handicapping college football is the success rate goes up tremendously with the amount of time you spend watching and researching it and understanding the game. And because you have to have that gut feeling of things that, again, are not in the numbers. Look, I will say this. It is possible that I would, matter of fact, let me even write down. Because what did I have in the NFL, by the way? I didn't even give you like an official pick or anything like that in the NFL. Let me see. Let me just go through this. I mean, Carolina, I said, would be an interesting upset play. Because what's Carolina? So they're about 2-1 on the money line. And let's see. Who else? Oh, Washington. Yes, I like Washington as a 3. That's a top pick. Do I like Minnesota enough to be a top pick? I'm going to say yes. I'm going to, because again, I love the backup quarterback deal there. I'm going to go with that parlay, Minnesota, Washington. And I love Houston getting that 1.5. I love Seattle giving 7. I like the Chargers. I can't say I love them. Do I want to put them like at a top picks deal? That's kind of hard. I'm going to say, I'm going to do it. I know it's kind of hard for me to look at Chargers 3-0, Denver 1-2, but I'm going to do it. And there's the Cowboys. I like them. I like Arizona. I like Kansas City and Baltimore. So I'll say my top picks will be Seattle and Houston. And then I also like Minnesota, the Chargers, and Washington. So upset-wise, look, you are getting 185. That is interesting. You're getting 185 on the money line with Detroit. So I can't take the Giants. Let's see. Is there any? See, I look at money line plays in the NFL. You have to at least be a 3.5 to 4 point dog, and you must be getting around 155 to 160 on the money line. Otherwise, that's not like an official upset in my mind. So if I just say upset, then Rams 155, that's on the peripheral. Yeah, not a lot of upsets this week that really jump out at me. I think the best ones are Carolina and Detroit. So, wow. Yeah. I guess those are the best ones. Carolina, Detroit. As far as upset plays. Let's get out of here. Let's get back here. So then Auburn, that would be an upset play that I'd have to consider because I think that this is going to be a good game. And I think Auburn has a chance, even though I like Oklahoma. All right, now here's a line that keeps going up, and I think it should. But now it's getting up there. It's 13.5. Put this out. As much as, we all like the underdog, I'm really guilty of that. But Tulane has the 91st ranked defense in college football so far. So they're not stopping anybody. And now they're playing an SEC team, a Lane Kiffin offense, who even exploded last week with this Chambliss kid, who's an FCS quarterback, I think, last year. So I know they're going to put the redshirt freshman or the sophomore Simmons back, but they'll score. Even when he throws interceptions, they score. He doesn't have to play well, and they score. So I think Mississippi's going to score a lot of points. And check this out. In the last 3 SEC matchups for Tulane since 2024, and one was home, one was away, one was neutral. 0-3 straight up and against the spread by 104-47 margin. Okay. They're also 0-3 straight up and against the spread as a road dog since 2023. Okay. And in their 3 games this year, they've been outgained in 2 of them, 2 of their wins, South Alabama and Duke. And those are good opponents. Not great opponents, but good. Ole Miss, meanwhile, has covered 5 straight off a win versus a non-conference opponent. It's a playbook special. And they're also 13-2 against the spread as a favorite of more than 4 when they take an opponent off a straight-up ATS win. So, again, this is getting up there at 13.5, but I'd go with Ole Miss. It's not going to be a wise guy pick for me. I usually go with the college. Vanderbilt's off this week. I think they're off, or they're playing an FCS team. So I can't take them. All right. Mississippi State. I'd like to see them playing well. Now, I'm still a little bit surprised that this line is 10 because the word had – now, they were down – it was 13 before. Now it's 10. Now, sellers – people believe at this point today, it sounds like they believe he's going to play because he needed to practice by today. If he was concussion, it's a Beamer. He says, you got to practice on my team by Wednesday. If not, you're not playing. But we don't know if Sellers was just like, I got to get in there or else I'm not going to have a chance to play. It could have been just that, and then he is not ready. That could happen. Maybe that's why it's still 10. It should. If they announced Sellers was playing, I would think this would come down to 7. So it decided to come halfway. That's what I think. That's my guess. And the money line came down from 4-1 to 3-1. But as you know, if you've been watching, me talk college football for the past month, you know how much I like Missouri as a sleeper, and I can't be more into them now after what I've seen so far. They are 4th in the nation in total offense. They are 5th in the nation in total defense. And my favorite running back, Ahmad Hardy, ranks 2nd in college football in rushing yards a game. So if you had college football fantasy, I hope you took my Ahmad Hardy advice. And check this out too. Missouri is 5-1 straight up, 6-0 against the spread in their last 6 years versus South Carolina. So they have really, now last year was the first time in that stretch that South Carolina beat them. Okay. They beat them by 4 as a 10-point home favorite. So Missouri still covered that spread. But we liked Vandy as our top college football play last week, not just because of Vandy, but we told you how poorly, even with Sellers, San Francisco offense, South Carolina's offense had been. And they still didn't do much at all until the injury. Vandy was still up by 2 scores when Sellers got hurt. So they were still not looking like an offense that most people thought they'd look like with a quarterback that had Heisman hope when the season began. I don't know if I'd rather see at this point. I say this at this point. I like this. I think this is the perfect time of week to take Missouri. I probably can't take him in the wise guy contest because they'll revert back to the odds from the beginning of the week, more than likely, which was 13.5. And that's a lot of points, especially if Sellers potentially plays. But right now, 10 points, I'm okay with. Even if Sellers plays, I just really, really am starting to like this Missouri team even more than when the season began. Because don't forget, they were a really big dog. I don't know where they are now. Let me see where they are. You know what? Let's do this later because I don't want to get out of this. It'll take time. Hopefully, I'll remember to go through that. I was going to take a look at their futures because they were like 60-1 to win the SEC when the season began. And I'm telling you right now, if you want to take a look at some wagers, take a look at futures in college football right now, especially in the SEC, because I've seen enough SEC football at this point to lead me to believe that there is a definite chance for a Missouri or a Vanderbilt or an Auburn to win that conference that I never really would have seriously thought when the season began, even though I would have looked at all those teams as sleepers, to win the SEC. And you're still going to get, I think you're still going to get good odds with these teams. I just have already seen. I've seen enough of Alabama. I've seen enough of Georgia, Texas. These are the top teams in the conference. That's all I have. That's all these teams that they contend with. They are beatable. What's next? Now this one I like Miami, but it is 7.5, and Florida's got a good defense. It's been the offense that's just killed them. Lagway. You can't keep playing like this. I don't care what kind of credentials you have as a young kid. Sooner or later, the team is going to resent it. That you just keep going out there and you keep throwing interceptions or you keep doing stupid things while the rest of the team is busting their ass. Sooner or later, there has to be accountability. And I'm not sure if Billy Napier is going to pull the trigger. I'm sure he's going to give him another chance for the half, and he's talented enough to get the opportunity. But, last week he should have been taken out of that game. Napier's 7-2 straight up, 7-1-1 against the spread when he's coaching a losing team. That's the spot he's in here right now. They have lost both games the last 2 weeks, straight up ATS, by just 38-26. So that's 12 points, and here it's 7.5 in one game. So that's the reason, and it's a big rivalry. These two teams don't play every year. They did play last year, and this is the reason why I'm still going to take Miami, because of the fact that, remember, week 1, they just blew up Florida. So the matchup possibilities are there saying, hey, this Miami is just better than Florida right now. And that was at Florida. Miami is 8-0-2 against the spread in a non-conference role as a home favorite of less than 7. That's not where they are right now. Okay, so keep an eye on that number. I don't think it's going to go less than 7, though. Oh, and just so you know, Miami is not going to leave the state of Florida until November 1st when they go to SMU. They're going to get a bye after this, and then they go to Tallahassee to take on Florida State. And after the way Florida State looked against Alabama, if Miami wins this game, boy, that's going to be a real good one. We're going to get real excited to watch that one. But anyway, I'm still taking Miami in this one. And I think it's a solid play because Miami is just a better team. And to tell you the truth, I think it would be a little bit of a knock in the wrench of Miami being considered a national championship contender if they can't beat this struggling Florida team right now by more than 7 at home. Oh, Vanderbilt is playing this week. Look, this is the team that beat Vanderbilt last year when Vandy got off to the good start with the upset against Virginia Tech. Then they lost to Georgia State on the road, and it was like, it's the same old Vanderbilt. Of course, they would beat Alabama then at home and go on to have a terrific season, but I'm sure they're going to want their revenge here in this one. Okay, I think that's it. SEC. Let's now move on to the Big Ten and my boys, Rutgers. I really thought this line would be about, I actually thought the line would be 1, and it started out at 2. It's now 3. Now, here's the deal with you giving 3 with Iowa. Their offense still stinks. And I think their offense is just as bad as it's ever been. So far, the FCS quarterback has done nothing. So the offense is just, at least they had Caleb Johnson last year. So they got a decent running back, but he's not Caleb Johnson. They have no receivers. But the thing they have going for them is they have beaten Rutgers all 4 times they played them by a 93-17 margin. So they have owned Rutgers. Problem is, those were Rutgers offenses that weren't very good. Those were the Gavin Wimsatt-led offenses, who's now a quarterback at Jacksonville State. Okay, he made the drop, Kentucky backup to Jacksonville State starter, where he belongs, down in the cellar of the FBS, of the Group of 5. But Kalakamanis, I said this in the beginning of the season when I had Rutgers as a sleeper team, is the best it could end up this year as the best quarterback stats of all time at Rutgers for a single season. And he's off to a great start already. Now, they do have injury issues, and that's the thing that concerns me the most. They have 3 left tackle injuries. 3. The number 1 guy, well, the guy who a lot of people thought was going to start the year at left tackle got injured before the season, so he didn't even get a chance to start. Then they brought in a kid to be the starter, and he got hurt, and now he's out for the season. And now they got this veteran left tackle, and he's been really good. Actually, was Chin starting at left tackle? I have to check that out. Might have been right tackle. But anyway, and he got hurt last week against Norfolk State. So they've had 3 big, important pieces of their offensive line go down. Now, I don't know if Needham's going to play or not, so you need to keep an eye on that, because that means they're going to go to an FCS lineman that was transferred in from, a local East Coast type of team and school. And I'm not talking about, I can't remember what school it was, but it wasn't like this is some major FCS program. So this is Iowa we're talking about. That's how they win games, with the line of scrimmage. And that's the thing that would concern me the most. But Rutgers offensively, and also keep an eye on the fact that one of the better receiver prospects in college football that you haven't heard of yet, Ian Strong, who's up to a great start, did not play last week. So if he plays, that's a big help. If he doesn't, they're still deep. Okay. Just remember the name KJ Duff. He's going to be another top receiver in the Big Ten as early as maybe by the end of this year. This kid, Ben Black, came in and played a little bit last week. He's a young kid that they really like and is already off to a good start. Sheffield transfer came in. He does a good job. I know they lost their running back, CJ Campbell, who also may not play, but they have 3 running backs. I'm not concerned with him. I know Shiano talks to miss him, but look, the major issue is the offensive line. But the other issue is the defense. Rutgers' defense has not played well, and if they can't stop Iowa, well, it's going to be a long season. But really, I think that's the main reason why Iowa's a 3-point favorite, is because the defense so far has not been good for Rutgers. And here's one thing I will, another trend that works against Rutgers. 3-11 against the spread as a home dog since Shiano returned to Rutgers in 2020. That's not good. But here's one little note as we move on. Last week, Iowa played UMass. The head coach at UMass was Joe Harasimiak, the defensive coordinator the last couple of years at Rutgers. So I'm sure Greg Schiano made a phone call, and maybe that'll help him out. But they really could have used Harasimiak here, because you want to know why? Part of the reason Rutgers defense isn't as good as they were last year, because their defensive coordinator left and became a head coach at UMass. I actually think that this is too big of a spread. This went from 7-10, and I'm not big on Maryland or Wisconsin, if you've heard me. I don't see any reason why anybody would make Wisconsin a 10-point favorite. Why? Were you impressed by their getting blown out by Alabama on Saturday. Is that what we're left with Wisconsin now? Is being, hey, we're going to be impressed by getting blown out. With Maryland, it is a true freshman starting his first time on the road, so I get that. I'm not big on Maryland this year. This is not a great Maryland team. They haven't played anybody yet, but I don't know. I can't give 10 points away if I'm Wisconsin. And I would, you know what? Maryland is not exactly the worst idea either for an upset, believe it or not. So let me even put that in there. I'm getting 3-1 with Maryland. Okay. Oregon State, yeah, those rivalries used to mean something. Michigan is now a 2.5-point favorite in this one. I'm a little bit surprised by this, but they have beaten Nebraska 4 times in the last 4, straight up ATS by 167-49. So they really have owned this series. And also, Michigan has covered 8 straight on the road after scoring 35 or more, while Nebraska is 1-7 against the spread after scoring 35 or more. And this is the biggest one of all. Nebraska has lost 27 consecutive games straight up versus ranked teams. 27 straight. That's over a 9-year period. Look, there are some people who believe that this is going to be Nebraska's year. Matt Rule, it's the year 3 Matt Rule history that says this is when his teams take off. I've repeatedly said, I think next year is his year. I think next year is the year Nebraska is going to take that next step. That doesn't mean that they're not going to be better this year, but I'm talking like a potential Big Ten contender next year. So that's where Nebraska wants to be. I don't see that happening this year. First step is beat Michigan at home. Okay. So, and get this ranked streak gone, because you can't become that type of a team yet until you start beating ranked teams. So that's the first step. I don't know. This is a tough one for me because, to tell you the truth, without all of these trends, I would have taken Nebraska. I really would have. But these are some major trend lines that are all on Michigan. Next up. Let's see. Here's a big one. Now, I love the fact that this line is moved up to 6, and I'm getting 195. So I'm getting 2-1 on the money line, which makes it an official upset play. And I'm all over Illinois as a upset pick. Because to me, this is going to be a great game. These are 2 really good sleeper contenders for the Big Ten championship. And this is, but this line is telling me that if the game was in Illinois, it'd be 3 or 2. And I'm pretty surprised by that, because I think these 2 teams are as evenly matched as you can ask for, even though I still think Illinois is a little bit better. All right. I think they have a little bit more of a foundation under DePalma. I think there's just a little bit more there carried over from last year's team, a little bit more continuity, but I'm nitpicking here and there. This is good. This is just a really good matchup. You know, you've got, you have on defense, you have a really good player at every position for Indiana. You got Kamara, edge rusher. You have the linebacker, Fisher, and you've got Pons, the cornerback. So you got star players at each spot. Offensively, that's where you've had the quarterback switch from Rourke to Mendoza, which I think is fine. I think Mendoza can give him an element of the game that they maybe didn't have under Rourke, especially when they're facing bigger teams like Ohio State, losing to them in a blowout last year, losing to Notre Dame in the playoffs. Remember, Indiana had that weak schedule last year. They didn't beat anybody really good. And this is their first opportunity this year to beat a good team, because they haven't beaten a good team since Cincinnati's been there since last year. This will be their biggest win. And that's why Mendoza's here. Cooper receiver, Surratt at receiver. That's real good talent there. And they have a strong offensive line too. If you look at Illinois, the thing to like about them, you got Altmaier, quarterback, returning, Fegan at running back. They can go 3 deep at running back as well, but Fegan is the real guy. They lost some big receivers last year. That's the thing I'm most concerned with in Illinois. If there's a little bit of a, if you're going to pick something that Indiana can really favor over Illinois, is that Illinois doesn't have even a Surratt or a Cooper. They got this Beatty kid is a really tough kid, is, good receiver, but he's not a dynamic weapon. So that's the thing that I think Illinois is a little bit of a limitation, but their offensive line is good. And by the way, all 5 guys came back on the offensive line from last year. So pretty much mostly everybody on offense that needed to come back came back, except for losing a couple of key receivers. 9 starters came back on defense, including the edge rusher Jackus, who already has 3.5 sacks. So look, these are really good teams. This should be a really good game. Diving into the trends. How about this? And this is where I go in with Illinois. They are 12-1 against the spread as a Big Ten road dog of 2 or more the last 4 years. 13-6 against the spread as a road dog under DePalma. And they've covered 7 straight after scoring 35 or more. 2-0 already this year, which is telling you that this is a difference. This is a better team. This is a better offense. And most of that is Altmaier because they have balance. They can throw the ball, they can run the ball, and they can protect you. Matter of fact, it's the most points they've scored in a 3-game stretch since Bielema has been there. So a lot to like there. Look, this is a really good team. And I mean, really good teams, really good matchup. And both teams really had, I think the one edge I would give Illinois is the fact that besides the trends is they have played at least Duke. They went on the road. They played a decent team in Duke and they blew them out. Indiana hasn't played anybody. They played my little ODU team, a little sleeper team from the Sun Belt. And that one was a 14-point win. It wasn't like a big win. They didn't cover the game and they didn't play anybody since then. So again, it's the same thing with the schedule with Indiana, so we'll see if they can pull it off. But I think this is definitely the biggest home game all year for Indiana. Rivalry game here. I would take Washington State in this one. They upset Washington last year. So the question is, would I be crazy enough to go with the money line at 750? I'd have to think about that because I like taking the double-digit plays, and I think Washington State definitely qualifies there, almost 20. Because check this out. They've covered 15 straight, the Cougars have, as dogs of 14 or more when they take on an opponent off a straight-up win. And that's obviously the situation they're in this week. Washington, meanwhile, won 8-1 against the spread their last 10 off a bye. And they were 0-2 last year, even with the new coach, Jed Fish. So, look, Washington's got revenge on their minds, losing last year, getting upset. Washington's also had a week to prepare for the game. This is still the Apple Cup. It's still a rivalry game. Washington State is just, we saw what happened last week. They got destroyed by North Texas. Now, who knows? Maybe they were looking ahead at the game. They just won a game. Looking ahead, that happens. Who cares about Texas State? We're just at this stage, Washington State is no Pac-12. There's a couple of games a year they're interested in, and this is so I give them a little bit of benefit of the doubt that they were looking ahead to this one. So anyway, look, I really like Washington. I said that in the beginning of the year because I think they're going to score a lot of points, but I just don't know if their defense is going to be able to come through for them. And so, could make Washington State alive, a dog in this one. Here's another big spread, 575 for Michigan State. Now, you need to keep an eye on a big injury because Nick Marsh, who is one of the better Big Ten receivers in college football, I didn't check today, but as of yesterday, it was iffy if he was going to play. If he doesn't play, they don't have a chance. He's their best player. It's like Antonio Williams not playing for Clemson. It's actually worse because they don't have a Wesco. Michigan State is 1-7-1 against the spread as dogs of 17 or more. So now it's over 17.5. USC has covered 6 straight as a home favorite, 2-0 this year. And they're 7-1 against the spread in their last 8 at home versus Big Ten teams, including 4-0 last year. All right. And they won 3 out of those games. Okay. So not only did they cover 4 Big Ten home games last year, they won 3 of them. And the only loss was overtime to Penn State. So this is a good situation if you want to take USC. The only issue you're going to have to deal with are the points. Okay. Where are we? Next up, let's try to pick up the pace here. Come on. All right. A lot of points in this one with Clemson, especially. Again, you keep an eye on Antonio Williams. The thing is, they got a bye next week. So I could see Clemson saying, at this point, if we haven't played him, let's just wait, give him a couple more weeks, get him ready for the full season. Because if we can't beat Syracuse without him, then we don't deserve to be in any talk of playoffs and all that. They haven't covered any games yet this year. They're 0-3 against the spread. Meanwhile, Steve Angeli has done a great job. Fran Brown knows how to recruit at Syracuse, and he did it again. He gets one of these Notre Dame quarterbacks. Notre Dame might want this Angeli kid because he's actually looking a lot better than Carr is at Notre Dame so far. But Angeli has thrown now for 798 yards with a 7-to-1 ratio in the last 2 games. Syracuse is 8-2 against the spread as dogs of more than 4 off of a non-conference game. They beat up Colgate last week. Clemson, meanwhile, has beaten Syracuse 6 out of 7, but they have dropped 5 out of 7 covers. All right. And throw in the fact that they're 0-3 against the spread this year, and maybe Antonio Williams doesn't play. And I'd take Syracuse. I take the 550. Man. I will say this. If Antonio Williams does not play, I might consider that. Because Clemson right now is so down, I just don't think, though, that they're out. I think that they, I know that, look, they're well coached. And the big picture says, we'll get to the bye. We'll get Antonio Williams healthy. We lost 2 games, 2 close games to 2 good teams, 2 playoff caliber teams. Let's just get on a roll. We get Antonio Williams back. We'll make a run. We'll go to the ACC championship game. We'll win that. We'll go to the playoffs, and we'll be okay. That's the mindset, and that's the way it should be. But Syracuse is definitely a dangerous team. The problem is Syracuse is not. I don't think there's still any. I still don't think they're as good as a team as they were last year. And even though, again, Angeli's given him a chance. That's the thing. If they didn't have a quarterback, if Fran Brown was not able to buy this kid, I'm sure that's what he did. If he wasn't able to buy him, I think Syracuse would be would what did they have? The Colgate win, and that's it. They would have lost to UConn. And they were down 2 scores in the fourth quarter to UConn a couple of weeks ago before they pulled out that win. This is one of the favorite picks of the week. It's TCU, and they're now a 7-point favorite. So I like them at 6, 7. Okay, I still do that. I just like the direction TCU's headed. They ended last year winning 6 out of the last 7 games, including a 4-game win streak to end the season, winning by a margin of 31.8 to 19.2. They have started the season, first 2 games, same thing, blew out their first 2 opponents, including that week 1 blowout at Bill Belichick and the Tar Heels. So they're on a nice run. They've got a good quarterback in Josh Hoover. They've got a good coach in Sonny Dykes. If you look at it, their offense looks really good. Transfers, they brought in transfers at running back and receiver, so they fixed that out. And defensively is really where I've been impressed with TCU, because it's the defense that is going to really be the difference in whether or not they can win the Big 12 this year. SMU, meanwhile, they just had too many losses on defense. They lost 9 starters, including 4 senior defensive linemen and all 3 starting linebackers from last year. And I don't see how they've been able to fix that yet. Yes, they have Kevin Jennings, a quarterback. The offense is going to do okay. They're going to score points, but I don't trust the defense. And TCU lost last year to SMU, so they've got a little bit of an angle there that I think will matter. And SMU is also 2-7 against the spread in their last 9 as a road dog. Okay, so I think that is something that matters. So I am, and the win last year by SMU, they scored 66 points. They won 66-42. So I think TCU is going to get their revenge. I think that spread's a little too big, but it's hard for me to trust MAC teams on the road. I will say that. But Louisville, they're not a top team, so I still think that's a lot of points. I'm actually going to take North Carolina in this game. I'm just checking something out. How about this from Bowling Green? 8-1-1 against the spread. Their last 10 is dogs of 8 or more. 1-0 in that spot this year. 14-6-1 in their last 21 as a road dog against the spread. So that's a lot of points. Okay, so North Carolina, I like the Tar Heels just because I don't think Central Florida is anything special just yet. And they're also 9-21 in their last 30 home games as a favorite. 0-1 in that spot this year. North Carolina is 2-1 on the money line, so I'm going to put them in there as a potential upset pick that I would play. Let's move on. And nobody cares about that. Yeah, this line is starting to go a little bit too high. I liked it when it was 2. It's now 3.5. Duke has beaten the Wolfpack the last 2 years, straight up ATS, by a 53-22 margin. And they're 11-1 against the spread versus ACC opponents with revenge off of a double-digit straight-up win. That's what North Carolina State is doing here. Duke lost to Illinois a few weeks ago. Did not look good. They had 5 turnovers. Then they had the game last week at Tulane. It got off to a slow start. They came on strong at the end, but it was way too late. Look, those are good teams to lose to. North Carolina State hasn't lost yet. They've gotten off to a nice start, but Duke is not a home favorite as a 1-2 team versus an undefeated team for no reason. Duke is still, I think, a more talented team than NC State. But check this out. The Wolfpack are 6-0-1 against the spread as an ACC home dog of 3 or more. So I'm just going to stay away from this one. Let's see. Virginia, Stanford. It's a pretty big line. Yeah, this one I'm probably going to go with Cal in this one. It's 12.5. Cal's off to a nice start, even though they're playing a true freshman quarterback. We liked them last week, as you know, when we picked them in that game against Minnesota. That was a great role for California as a non-conference dog, and they continue to rock in that trend. Cal is 4-0 straight up and against the spread as a road favorite since 2023. They beat San Diego State as a home favorite last year by 21. They were a 19-point favorite in that one. The only thing that's working against them, if the line goes higher than this, which I don't think it will, is their 2-8 ATS as a favorite 14 or more. But I don't think you got to worry about that. So, yeah, I do like Cal. And maybe Justin Wilcox, because he's got this freshman quarterback, maybe he's going to finally be able to get on a run here. Because the problem with Wilcox was not really, and this is the thing that really kind of blows about the portal, is he finally found a quarterback in Mendoza. Finally found a quarterback. It's been all defense. He's a defensive guy, and they're winning defensive ugly games, and they had a nice running back in Ott, and they had Mendoza, and there was a lot expected for this upcoming year, and then they both leave. That's what you have to deal with, unfortunately, but it's nice to see that it hasn't hurt them and that this freshman quarterback is playing well. Okay, now let's move on to the last conference in the FBS group, Power 4. And we're going to start with an upset play. Tulsa getting 3-1. And I like the coach there. I think he's going to turn things around for Tulsa. I also like the fact, but you do need to keep that Francis is the starting quarterback, and I don't know if he's going to play yet. Now, that definitely matters to me. I think I'm still willing to go to the money line with the backup because I know what I know who the backup is, but I don't like this Oklahoma. I don't like what's going on here. I just don't. They made all these changes, major transfer changes, staff changes. None of it's mattered for Gundy. None of it. They look just like the team that ended last season. Nothing looks like it's changed yet. Now, maybe it will by the end of the season. But I am willing to say that at this point, this team is vulnerable in this spot. And I'll take Tulsa in the money line. Here's a huge game. The spread is now down to 3. I liked it a lot more at 4. But overall, I think I have to stay away from the game, even though I like Texas Tech if I'm going to take it, because I don't know yet if they're ready to they haven't shown yet that they can win a game like this on the road at Utah. They haven't met since 73. So first time they're playing in this spot at Utah. This is something that if you just look at Joey McGuire the last several years when he's in these types of West Coast situations, really good team, or it doesn't even have to be a really good team. That's the point. You know, he's had problems against these West Coast games, and I have to see it first. And especially since I'm not getting like any major money line play here, I just don't think it's a really good, wise investment. But I am going to go with them because I don't know yet if Dampier is ready to take that full step into Power 4 stardom. Because even last year, he had a 12-12 ratio, touchdown to interception. It was more about his running ability. This year, 73%, 209 a game, 7-0 touchdown to interception. And he leads the team with 198 rushing yards. But they haven't played anybody. Okay, the toughest competition is UCLA and Wyoming. And last week, it was 3-0 at the half at Wyoming. Okay. So remember this. New offensive coordinator Jason Beck brings quarterback Dampier and their number one receiver, this kid Ryan Davis from New Mexico. These were New Mexico transfers. Mountain West Conference, bottom of the Mountain West type of talent from, again, these are the best players, but you get what I'm saying. Now they're supposed to lead Utah, but they haven't had to face any of the Big 12 teams yet, the top teams. They've still played teams that they would have beaten at New Mexico. This is our first test, because if Dampier can go out there and look like that he's every bit as good in this situation against these teams, then hey, Utah's got to be up there. And I would probably put him up there for a definite Big 12 championship. But I need to see it first, and I also need to see it from Texas Tech's position as well. They are 11-6 against the spread. Their last 17 as a road dog, so they do have that going for them. And what I really like as far as the matchup is Behren Morton, the quarterback. You can say what you want about the nice story with Dampier, but Morton's just a better quarterback, and he also can run the ball too. But Morton, 70% of his passes so far completed, 307 passing yards a game, 100 more than Dampier, and 11-1 ratio. They've got 5 really good receivers at Texas Tech. Okay. And a couple of transfers too. And that was something that really they needed. They brought in this Terrence Carter, tight end, first team SBC player for Louisiana. He's already off to a nice start. 3 touchdowns, I believe. Eakin is their top receiver. He also has 3 touchdowns. They lost their OC Kitley to FAU as the head coach. But besides that, I mean, have you noticed anything wrong with Texas Tech's offense? I think, were they second in offense? They're second in offense. So they haven't missed Kitley, and they haven't really missed Taj Brooks yet either. Their best weapon. Because that's the thing I think they will miss in a game like Utah, is have that breakaway star running back. They don't have that now with Brooks with the Bengals. But they had some really good portal additions. They were ranked as one of the top portal teams in college football this past offseason. So they've got that going for them. Yeah, look, I think it's a great game, fun game. And I'm going to take Texas Tech, but I just don't see the value in much more than that. All right. I'm actually going to go with West Virginia in this one because Kansas, I think we saw in the Missouri game that even though it's SEC, Big 12 on the road, where the limitations are. But look, it is West Virginia. It's not going to be an overnight thing, and they are coming from the high of beating Pittsburgh and come from behind and overtime, and maybe there'll be a downer this week, and I could see that happening. But I'm getting value here at 13 points with the spread. I think that's important. I think it was helpful that they were able to get a running back, Ty Edwards, replace White, who got injured in the Ohio game. He's out for the year, it looks like. So Edwards, though, came in, had a really big game last week against Pitt. That's big. But I just think this is too many points. And for the first time, look, I know it's been better, the defense with Jacksonville State, but for many years, it didn't matter what was going on with this West Virginia offense under why am I blocking out his name now? I'm just completely blocked out his name. Rich Rodriguez. I'm a Michigan fan, so I block it out on purpose. So he's never had good defenses. I mean, they would score tons of points, but his defensive hires were terrible. But finally, he found a defensive coordinator at Jacksonville State, and it's no wonder I believe he followed him over to West Virginia. And so now they're actually better defensively than they are offensively because he hasn't really been able to put his full offense in. He hasn't been able to get the quarterback yet. But the defense, I think, is the reason why 13 points makes sense to me. And I think they are also a good double-digit upset play at 360. So I would definitely mark that down as a possibility. More game here. Wow. I didn't realize that. Really, Philly? That is awful. See, these are the things that drive you crazy as a fan in football, is these situations. This is awful because it doesn't even happen during a game. And when this happens, and like Philly Mike is saying, non-contact, that is scary, man. That is so scary because that basically is telling you that it can happen anytime at any practice. And as a fan, there's nothing you could do about it. And you either have the injury luck that I talk about every year, or you don't. So now I guess the question is what to do about Houston, right? They're getting Christian Kirk in at the right time. You know, if I have, let me see if I can get it in now. I am going to, can I get it in? I was thinking of taking Christian Kirk on my fantasy team. Let me see. See if I could do that right now. If I go to my fantasy board, maybe I could show it to you as I do it. All right, here's my fantasy team. Where is it? Let's see. Hold on a second. Okay. So who would I drop, though? You see, I definitely would have taken, but I just picked Monangai up. I can't make that move right now. I can make this move, and it would happen right away. I'm not dropping Mims. I'm not dropping Booty. I could drop Braylon Allen, but I need running backs. See, if you look at my team, I had like one of the late picks. I think it was 9 out of 10 teams. So I had no big running backs left, but I had CeeDee Lamb and Justin Jefferson. So I went that way. I also got Ladd McConkey. So I loaded up on receivers. Also wound up taking the best kicker and what I thought is the best defense. It was the best defense in fantasy last year. The problem is, and I'm fine at quarterback because I got Justin Herbert, I got Bo Nix. The problem is my running game. Now I need Kenneth Walker to play like he did last week. If he does, I'm fine. But this is a problem right now. And that's why I picked up Blake Corum this week and Monangai, because I just have to load up on running backs and hope that if there is an injury that I'm lucky enough. So Braylon Allen, I think, is the only guy that I could drop. I could drop McCarthy. I'm not sure anybody would pick him up in this league. McCarthy. So my decision is, do I keep McCarthy? See, I'm not going to drop Stafford because what we do in our league is at the end of the year, if you are, I mean, when the season's over, you know, everybody's fantasy season usually ends week 17 of an 18-week season. But when our season ends and our championship game is over, we go into the NFL playoffs, and any of the players that are still on our rosters that are in the playoffs get points. And we win and whoever gets the most points in the NFL playoffs from the players we have left, we also get rewarded for that. So that's the reason why I'm holding on to Matthew Stafford. But McCarthy, I could let go, especially I think he's coming back, but I don't know if anybody would pick him up right away. And I could always then drop Monangai next week before I think anybody would pick McCarthy back up. But even if I lose McCarthy, I'm still loaded there. So, all right, let's see. I don't even know if he's still available. I'm just guessing if you said, you know what, let me just confirm. Not that I don't trust you, Philly, but I haven't even looked for myself. You always have to confirm. Let me see. Nico. We just get it right there. I'm not seeing it yet. This must be real early. I'm surprised I'm not seeing anything. Let's see. I'm surprised. If this is accurate, I'm not seeing anything. It's not that I don't trust you. Where else can I go for, let's see, try CBS. Does anybody have this out yet? Nobody's got this out yet. All right, so I'm not going to do this until I know for sure. And I'll get back to doing my thing while I wait for the news to come out. Okay. Let me put it up there. Nico Collins. Okay. Anyway, so at least you got my fantasy. If you don't know anything about fantasy, just give you a little bit of deal there. I'll go back to that in a few minutes. Okay. So BYU and East Carolina. And I actually like East Carolina in this one. I mean, I really like BYU as a program. I think they have the best coaching staff in all of the Big 12. And you're seeing it again. They have a true freshman quarterback that is off to they've kind of sheltered him, but he's off to a good start. LJ Martin is a big-time running back there. They have won their 2 games this year by a 96-3 margin, but that's because they haven't played anybody. East Carolina, though, they've covered 9 straight off a double-digit straight-up win as a non-conference team, and they're 1-0 in that spot this year. And they've won their last 2 by a 94-3 margin. So both of these teams have blown out their last 2 opponents, and that's why I like East Carolina, because I think this game, and also you got a freshman quarterback at BYU, first road game of the year, and I could use this as a money line too at 2-1. So there were a lot of money line upset possibilities this week, and I think East Carolina is one of them. I like their coach. Ever since he took over midseason, this team has been different. They lost some key players in the offseason, but you know what? It hasn't mattered, especially because Hauser is still there, the quarterback, and that's, of course, a major position. They were right there at the end with North Carolina State, so it shows you they could play, and I think they're a good play here. And here's another good one. One of the biggest games of the year in the Big 12 is Baylor at home against Arizona State. Now, for Arizona State, I just don't know, and I'm still not sure, even after last week blowing out North Texas, I still don't know if they're – I shouldn't say I still don't know. I don't know. I mean, right now they haven't proved to me that they're the team I think they are, because I felt that they were still the cream of the crop of the Big 12. The way they played so far this year, they're one of 5 or 6 teams. They have not separated themselves yet. They are 13-5-1 in their last 19 as a road dog. And how about this? This is only the second meeting ever between these two teams. The first was back in 1990. So first meeting is Big 12 foes. We see Sawyer Robertson is off to a great start. He's an underrated quarterback that nobody talks about. But we also know Levitt is a big Big 12 quarterback as well. I think the running game has done a good job. There's no Scatterboo, but the run it's interesting because, all right, they don't have Scatterboo. I get it. But the running game has been fine. Levitt, you still have Levitt, and you still have Tyson, one of the better wide receiver prospects in all of college football. And you still have a pretty good defense. The defense doing well. I don't understand why the offense hasn't clicked yet. Maybe it's just early in the year. You got to get things going. Could also just be remnants of last year. Such a big year, big season, playoff. That could go to a lot of heads. So there may be some of that as well. But this will tell us a lot. This will tell us a lot. I can't touch this game though at this point, because Baylor, they came up, they had a huge come from behind win, down 14 points to beat SMU on the road a couple weeks ago. And this is a great game to watch, I think, and we're going to find out a lot about both teams. I really am going to consider taking Wyoming in the money line. And I know I probably shouldn't, because I don't know if Wyoming's capable of pulling something like this off on the road. But I do know that Colorado is not like Utah. And I do know Wyoming was only trailing by 3 against Utah. We talked about that game last week. But eventually they wore down because they're not as talented. And also there was no edge as far as, it's snowing or really cold. And not that Utah can't play in those conditions, but that's what the home field advantage is in Wyoming. Wyoming, though, remember, they're still 2-1. And Colorado is still trying to figure out the quarterback situation. Staub, the young kid, played last week. Salter, they took him out. So that could be a division there. They're 0-2-1 against the spread on the year. So, look, Colorado can win this game 31-3. They can. But I also think if you're looking for a double-digit dog, this is not the worst idea in the world. So 4-1 Wyoming. Okay. All right, that's it for the Power 4. Now we're going to slip into the group of 5. Let me take a Nico Collins check. Reload. I'm not seeing it. What's up with Nico? What's up with your information? Where is the information you're getting so I could check it out, Philly? Tell me where to go. All right. AAC. So I like Rice. I like the fact that the number is dropped. I like the coach. I told you about this before the season began. They're 4-0-2 against the spread in their last 6 on weekday games. How about that? Charlotte, meanwhile, Tim Albin, look, they've got a good coach. We know what he did at Ohio. My question is it's worked at Ohio. For whatever reason, this transition from now down to their third coach, and Richie O'Leary made a great point when we talked about it. When you hire within, and especially it's not like you had to go outside to get a new coach. They have been able to move these coaches along into these spots that have already been there for years, and they know how to do it, and they've been groomed to do it. And so that's why Ohio looks like Ohio again. But can Albin do this somewhere else like Charlotte? So far, the results say no, but it's very early. And I think he'll do it. I think he'll do a good job, but I think you can take advantage of this. Charlotte 4-9 against the spread. Their last 13 as a home dog. 0-1 in that spot this year. 1-10 against the spread after they allow 35 or more versus an opponent with revenge, which Rice is in. They beat Rice last year, and they've beaten them 3 out of the last 4. But I'll take Rice. I think they're still a better team right now. That's a Thursday game, of course. Got over some of these games. This is a good one. North Texas and Army. And it went from Army 1 to North Texas 2.5. So I'll have to check the trends there. But this Mestre quarterback for North Texas has been fantastic. 764 yards, 9 touchdowns. He's got a touchdown run. North Texas has covered 7 straight versus an opponent off a straight-up ATS road win. That's a playbook special. But I can't use this one because they're not a road dog. So that's good if you're North Texas. Cale Helms, the quarterback at Army. He's replacing one of the best Army quarterbacks maybe ever. Anyway, in his first start against Kansas State, he rushed the ball 41 times for 124 yards and 2 touchdowns. Army also beat North Texas last year as a 6-point road favorite, 14-3. This is Eric Morris's best team, though, at North Texas. We saw him blow out Washington State last week. We saw his team come from behind to win at Western Michigan a couple weeks ago in overtime. This is going to be a real tough one. It's a handicap. Okay, we've gone over a bunch of these already. Yeah, I like UTSA in this one. To me, this is a low line. This is one of the games, one of the better games I like. Rams are only 1-6 against the spread in their last 7 as a home dog. UTSA is a better team. So it's 4.5. But look, Jim Feist told me, and I'm doing it, that it's always better to just screw the money line if you can, any way possible when the points are low. So you might want to do that because I don't want to lose the spread with UTSA, a better team than Colorado State. But again, with the 4.5, I still think it's worth taking or giving. All right, that's it there. Let's move on to the Mountain West. And I think UNLV is a good pick. Dan Mullen has got his team undefeated, 2-0 against the spread. And how about this one? This is a big one. Maybe one of the best trends all week. Ready? UNLV is 20-1 against the spread on the road versus non-conference teams. Nothing tricky about that. Nothing playbook specially about that. 20-1 away, non-conference. I love that. 16-0 since 2017 and 1-0 this year. And it's only 2.5. The line has come down. So much so that has become one of my best plays of the week. Because I like UNLV anyway. Mountain West, MAC, we know who's got the better personnel. And how about this? Let's throw this on top. How about this too? Miami is 4-25 straight up. By the way, this is my research. 4-25. My research, but I used the magazine to find it. 4-25 straight up versus FBS non-conference teams the last 10 years. That is an amazing dual trends that say grab UNLV 3-0 straight up, 2-0 against the spread, taking on Miami, 0-2 straight up and against the spread. Now, the one thing that could work against them, it's 12 o'clock. So, and getting their clock might say 9 o'clock in the morning. Boise, I think Boise is a good play here. I thought Air Force would show me more. And I did feel that we said this in the beginning of the year, that the one thing to look out for was the quarterback spot. And I don't see anything that says that, look, they got a couple of guys who are going back and forth and they're not playing awful, but in order to be a Mountain West Conference championship team, I haven't seen that they've got one of those quarterbacks at Air Force this year. And what's worse is that their defense gave up a load of points to Utah State last week. And that's supposed to be their strength. So I don't like this Air Force thing so far. And Boise's owned them. 6-1 straight up ATS in the last 7. So, yeah, I have no problem. I definitely like Boise here. Nevada, Western Kentucky. I got check out these conflicting trends for you for Western Kentucky. 10-0 straight up and against the spread at home versus an opponent of a straight up ATS loss. Okay, that is great. Now you ready for bad? 0-10 against the spread as a favorite of less than 13 off a double-digit ATS loss. So one of those trends will continue and the other will not. It's a lot of points, but Nevada had a very disappointing comeback loss to Middle Tennessee last week when they led 13-0, I think it was, going into the fourth quarter, and they lost 14-13. Okay, what's next? I like this one. I'm getting 3 here because Fresno, they really haven't had any big wins. Yeah, they beat Oregon State, which was nice, but they're not very good anymore. Bray's the next one to go. And I do like the program. I like the coach. I think they're heading in the right direction. I'm probably going to take them a few times this year. But I like Hawaii better. And you should know that. The one thing to keep an eye on now, Alejandro, the young quarterback, did not play last week. And this kid Weaver came in and played for him. And he played well, but he's the backup. No word yet on who's going to be the quarterback. So you need to find out who's starting a quarterback for Hawaii. Hawaii has beaten Fresno 3 out of 4, straight up and against the spread with 3 upsets. They've upset them by 3, by 11, and by 11. So, and the clincher, Hawaii is 17-5 against the spread as a home dog in the last 22 games. Definitely going with Hawaii in that one. So I actually like the 2 of those Mountain West games really well. I like Boise and Hawaii. Let's go to the Sun Belt first. Let me check on Collins. Reload. I don't see it. I don't know. I'm not getting it. I think by now I'd get this news. Philly Mike, what's going on? I'm not seeing it. You almost got me making fantasy moves. Okay. Maybe Philly Mike was upset that he waited for 45 minutes for a show that never came on. All right. James Madison and Liberty. And in the beginning of the season, we felt this would be a really big game. And it's still a big game, but James Madison wound up losing to Louisville. I think that kind of took steam out, like the Liberty loss to Bowling Green, or one of our upsets last week. This is a big number. And how about this? James Madison, 13-1 straight up, 9-1 against the spread in their first 4 games of the season since joining the FBS in 2022. They are 10-5 against the spread as a road favorite since 2022. 6-1 against the spread as versus non-conference teams since 2023. 1-0 this year. Liberty, though, is 3-0 straight up and against the spread in their last 3 as a home dog. So they're kind of acting like Ohio. That's why we liked Ohio a couple of weeks ago. And they're 8-1 against the spread. Their last 9 as dogs. So I'm a big James Madison guy, as you know. They were my top team to make it to the group of 5 this year with South Florida number 2. So that's and James Madison's still in it because they had a good loss to Louisville. But this tells me I probably, even though there's good trends for James Madison, I don't know. It's telling me maybe I should take Liberty there, but I'll let you make the call. This is another downer, Troy. They lose Goose Crowder, their starting quarterback, early in the game against Memphis last week, and their offense did nothing the rest of the way. He's out for another month or so, shoulder surgery. I can't touch Troy in this spot because if they're going to throw the quarterback in there, I saw last week, they did nothing. I know it was Memphis, but Buffalo is supposed to be a good MAC team this year. 6.5, it's a lot to give out. I do like Troy. Maybe their defense keeps it in. Buffalo, I mean, they almost lost to Kent State last week. But I don't know who's the quarterback at Troy, and it's a mystery. So, yeah, there's too many other games to go with. Now, here's a game that I actually like with Eastern Michigan. I think Chris Creighton needs a win, too. I don't think he's going anywhere. He's been, compared to what this program was before he came, they're night and day. But they've been kind of going the opposite direction the last few years a little bit. But Louisiana has all sorts of quarterback issues, major quarterback issues. Their quarterbacks have been terrible because their starter went down week 1. So I think Eastern Michigan might be right for the little upset here. But beginning of the season, this would have been like a spread of double digits. And all of a sudden, things have just not gone the way for Louisiana. Arkansas State, this surprises me that the line has dropped to 4.5. This is Kennesaw State we're talking about. Arkansas State at least went out there last week and had a competitive loss to Iowa State. So, yeah, there'll be a little bit of a downer. But I also think it'll be the kind of confidence boost the players need. It's not a conference game, though. But look, Arkansas State still has better personnel than Kennesaw State. I don't know why this line dropped. Oh, here's one of my favorite picks of the week. We talked about last week how much I liked. What was the team who blew out Coastal? Was it East Carolina? Yeah, right. Who we like against BYU. But South Alabama, we've told you on Monday, they're in our rankings now, top 10. They had good losses to LSU and to Tulane. They're at home now as a big favorite, as you can see. They've covered both games this year. Okay. Couple things. For South Alabama, really like what they're doing this year. Major Applewhite, year 2, doing really well. Got the team to a bowl last year in year 1. No other new coach had ever done that before with the program. Davenport, the quarterback's off to a good start. Bullock, the running back, who's been there for a few years, had about 800 yards rushing last year, is off to a good start. Voisin is a nice receiver, already has 4 touchdowns. They've got a good offense. It's a good offense. Major Applewhite, former Texas quarterback. Also, they've covered 7 straight as a program as a home favorite of 16 or less when they take on an opponent with a 3.33 win percentage or less. And now we're going to go to the bad. Coastal Carolina. Check out all the bad. Because I said this in the beginning of the season, that Coastal Carolina, this is it for Tim Beck. I told you guys, Tim Beck is going to be his last season. They're going to move on. All the magic that we remember from Coastal a couple of years ago is gone, and he's just killing it. The longer this goes, memory-wise, the better it is. You've got to stop the bleeding. And it would not surprise me if South Alabama covers this spread and they blow out Coastal Carolina in the same manner in which Coastal Carolina was blown out last week, which I think is going to happen, that they don't move on from Tim Beck. He has done nothing but bring this program down. They are the worst FBS team in turnover margin. They are 106th in penalties. They are 121st in total offense, playing with, it looks like, their third string quarterback, because they're the guy that was battling for the first string, injured before the season began, out. First quarterback did nothing to start the season, so they went to the backup, who was really the third string. So that means their two quarterbacks, Morris and Hudson, have combined to complete 53% passing, no touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. Is that god-awful or what? Throw in the fact that Beck, desperate, brought in a new offensive coordinator, brought in a new defensive coordinator, so they're trying to learn new schemes. And how about this? Not only are they trying to learn new schemes, but they had 66 new players, added to the team last year. And somehow they have 67 new players added to the team this year. I didn't even know mathematically that was possible. So is it no surprise that this team has no structure? They don't know what they're doing. Again, they're playing a third quarterback. It's ugly. And if South Alabama does not cover this, it's because they're sleepwalking to victory. That they're just, we got this one in the bag, and we're psychologically not in it. We just had 2 really tough games, and we're just going to win this game and just go to sleep before it's even over. But I don't think that's going to happen, because they lost those games, and they can't mess with losing to this team. And I think they're going to annihilate them, but we'll see. I actually like Middle Tennessee in this one, but I'll probably stay away because they had that comeback win over Nevada, which was an impressive one. And, we've talked about Mason, the head coach, and all. But this really scared us away. They're 0-11 against the spread off a straight-up upset victory. Wow. So basically, whenever Middle Tennessee State pulls off an upset, the next week, things aren't well. Marshall, meanwhile, if you look at them, the thing that I think they may have going for them, after not looking all that great to start the season, is they brought in this new quarterback, Carlos Del Rio Wilson. And he had a good first start last week. Not great competition at all, but still that could, you get these new quarterbacks in college, man. You don't know what to expect from them. That's the thing that's always tricky. And even from week to week, heck, we don't know how these guys are going to react in the NFL. So that's the reason why I'm not going to touch the game. Let's see. What else do we got? Louisiana Tech is now a 3.5-point favorite. I really like them at 2. It should be 3.5. I don't know why. Louisiana Tech is a better team than Southern Miss. I know everybody's excited about Huff being at Southern Miss, and he's definitely going to turn the program around. I get it. But Louisiana Tech's got better personnel, and they're at home. And how about this? The Eagles are 0-8 against the spread after scoring 35 or more when they take on an opponent off a double-digit straight-up win, which tells me that after they have a big offensive explosion, and the next week they're usually playing a really good team, they come back down to earth. And this is called the rivalry in Dixie. So not conference foes, okay? I think they used to be, but now they're no longer. But yeah, Louisiana Tech's a better team. So 3.5 now, the numbers are going, I guess, the way that they should. This is a game that I'm curious about, because I mentioned these are 2 sleeper teams when the season began in their respective conferences. So I am interested how this one's going to turn out. Normally, because I think this is a game that can go either way, I would grab the 2-1, but I've got enough 2-1 picks this week. And And I think UTEP might actually be better. So we'll see. And then we only have a couple more to go. And we'll go with the MAC. All right. We already told you Bowling Green may not be a bad one. I don't think there's much here. This is the only one. Okay. So this is a 14-point spread. But get this. Western Michigan has beaten Toledo the last 2 games in Kalamazoo, covered and won. And they also did it as a 10-point home dog in 2022. So here they're a 14-point dog. You're also getting 470 on the money line. And Western Michigan has actually played a pretty tough schedule. You know, starting with who did they play starting off with? Well, they had the nice Michigan State. They lost that one, and that was not a blowout. And then they had a game they should have won against North Texas, and they've looked good so far. Lost in overtime. And then last week against Illinois. I mean, it's Illinois. I mean, they had a tough schedule they played. Toledo, meanwhile, 4-14 against the spread in their last 18 as a road favorite. And 1-9 against the spread as a road favorite of 3 or more in their last 10. So definitely it says take Western Michigan and the 15. And I think that's it. We've done all the rest. Okay. And then we end it with the Conference USA. I think there's only one game to talk about. That's this Delaware game. I guess FIU and Delaware had a big win against UConn last week. This is a very good FCS program making the transition to the FBS. FIU had a big win last week against FAU, finally stopping that rivalry losing streak. But get this, 0-4 straight up, 0-3 against the spread, their last 4 after they play FAU. And that makes sense, you know, rivalry game and all that. So you might want to be aware of that. The spread has moved up, though, to 5.5. And another team that is not a bad idea if you want to take a look at someone on the money line, on one of those 2-1 money line plays. All right, I'm going to give it one more try, refreshing, and hope that I don't see. I don't have Nico Collins in my fantasy team anyway. I had him on my team last year, and it's what, I was so upset because I took him, and he wasn't the superstar yet. And he gets off to this monster start to the season, and I'm loving it. And I'm like, I got this guy, and nobody thought this was going to happen. I mean, I knew he was going to play well. He played really well. And then he gets hurt. And then he was out of my lineup for like 6 weeks, and it just killed my season. Let's see. One more chance. I do not see anything. So by this time, it's not happening. Because if it hasn't happened yet, then it didn't happen. So I'm not sure where Philly Mike is getting that information. But so far, it's either he's either got connections at Houston and they haven't spread it out to the real world yet, or Philly Mike is wrong. So let's go with the picks. I've given you a bunch of, let's go with the official picks here. So I'm going to go, I'll say that my top 3 plays, I'll go with my top 4 plays, will be Missouri, TCU, South Alabama, and UNLV. Okay. Would I trade Judy for DJ Moore? Would I trade Judy for DJ Moore? Yeah. If you're talking about a year-to-year team, yes. Because I do think that Chicago will get better. So, yeah. Let me find out what Draft Sharks has these guys as far as trade value. I'll help you out with this. And if you've never been on Draft Sharks before, you should check it out. Okay, so this is the Draft Sharks trade value chart. All right, Jared Smola, who's you might have seen him. If not, he was with me in, August last month when we previewed the season in fantasy. So that show is still available. Okay, 10-man standard PPR. That's me. So it's already set up. Oh, it's not Superflex though. I've got Dynasty set up, so I tried to change it. Let's see. Let's move this out. PPR standard. Yeah, okay. Startup. Wait, where are we? Here we go. Okay. All right. One quarterback. I'm assuming. Okay. So here we go. Quarterback, running back, receiver. What? Let's see. Who's Judy? I'm looking at Judy and Moore. Okay. DJ Moore's at 33-point value. And Judy's at 28. So right there. So I would be correct. Okay. So there you go. Judy, 28, and Moore, 33. So Moore's got a little bit more value, which is close enough that you don't have to always religiously, of course, go with the numbers. It's just a helpful tool. And another one that they have is they've got another tool that's pretty cool too, where you can, anytime you're looking to make a trade, trying to see, I think this is where you want to go. This is the best place to go. But they also have a value chart. Where is it? Where's that value chart? There's another one. I thought it was somewhere else. I guess I probably have to find it myself. Anyway, this is also good if you want to check it out. They have all this news out. You see, if Nico Collins had an injury, it would be right here. It comes out, all this stuff. They basically, as soon as stuff comes, Darren Waller's out for week 3. What a surprise. Let's see. Yeah, so this is, on track for week 3 return. Here's the Canty news that I saw before. Let me see if this is where I was looking. Was it the draft rankings? No, it must be somewhere else. What do you got here? Smitty. Oh, I've got Herbert too. Metcalf. There's Judy. I have Addison. All right. So these are your top players, I guess. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Is that all the players you have, by the way? It's not a lot of players. Okay, let's see. They only allow 12 players on the roster. That's unusual. All right. So Bijan. That's nice. Bowers. What do I see here? Jacobs and Bijan. Well, that's really nice. So I see that you were lucky enough to go with the running backs early. So it hurts you a little bit at receiver, but mostly because, your quarterback situation. I was able to get Herbert late for whatever reason. In my league, man, they did not want to touch Herbert. And I couldn't believe it because I had already drafted Nix as my starting quarterback. And I was deciding, and I kept seeing Herbert there. And I was like, should I take him? Should I take him? I must have said that like 3 times in round 12 or 13, whatever it was. Nah, I'm going to go somewhere else. And then I come back around again. And at one point I was like, forget this, man. I know I already have Nix. I was like, I'm taking him. Okay. So, you're fine at quarterback. You're really fine at running back. So and you got Bowers with Metcalf. Judy for Moore. Yeah, I mean, it's a good move. The only question is that is there a major reason to make it? And I'd say the only reason why I would say yes is because with Flacco at quarterback, he is not going to the guys that you really are going to benefit will actually be the tight ends. So those are the guys that'll benefit. So Judy is not going to have a big year because the offensive line can't hold up long enough for Flacco to make the type of down the field throws that you'll need in order for Judy to have a really big season production wise. But DJ Moore, who is more of a playmaker, I think, than Judy with the ball in his hands. And you also have, one of the best coordinators in the game coaching. And eventually Williams will get better. So, yeah, I'd say make the move. Yeah, I had Barrett at Aubrey myself. Yeah. Well, look, I don't know look, you're getting Addison back. So let's say you make this move. You have DJ Moore, Addison, Metcalf, and Bowers. You also have Ridley. Keeping in mind you have Robinson and Jacobs at running back, which is, I got to believe, it's the best running back duo in your league. And you've got Herbert, who I think is going to have a great season because they are not going to mysteriously start running the football well this year. They're just not. They're going to be a passing team this season. So Herbert is going to put up tons of points this year. So I think you're really fine there. What about Garrett Wilson? Is he an option instead of Moore? Is that what you're saying? Because I don't see Wilson here. How could you leave Wilson off? Oh, this Wilson. Well, I don't think you're in that much trouble. You got Wilson, Metcalf, Bowers, Addison will be back. Yeah, make the trade. Get DJ Moore for Judy. I don't think you've got a problem at all. Who's your kicker? Do you have a kicker? Oh, that's right. You have Aubrey. And defense? Did we talk about defense? You got defense? I don't see a defense here. Do you have defense in your league? Oh, why do you say this week? Does everybody do that or only you? Streaming the defense. So you do like mostly everybody grabs one and holds on to them, or is everybody getting new defenses every week? And basically, who's available on defense? You don't have to talk about anything else. You're fine. So tell me who's on defense left, because you don't need to do anything. You're fine. You're going to have a good year this year. But I would make the trade, make the Judy for more trade. And let me know who's on defense each week, because I don't look. It all depends on who's available on defense. That's why I'm going to look at it. Playing the week to week game on defense is really hard. It's sometimes it works, but sometimes it doesn't, and you're constantly guessing that the numbers will work on your side, and sometimes they don't. And it's better to just land a good defense and stick with them every week, even if they have a bad week. Yeah, I wouldn't worry about that. The offense is nowhere near as good as it's going to be. Their offense is going to get good. So they're going to be just fine. And like I said, I wouldn't worry too much about the difference between, because again, you're dealing with Flacco. You're dealing with a 40-whatever-year quarterback versus Caleb Williams. So just say to yourself, do you think Flacco is going to last the entire season? Because if he doesn't, then when it's Pickett next, because he might be traded by then. You still don't know. I still can't believe that the Browns ain't going to trade somebody. Isn't Pickett gone? Yeah, he's gone, isn't he? I don't even remember what they got going on there with Cleveland. But anyway, the point is that he ain't going to last. So I wouldn't you can't look at it as, well, this is what Judy's doing right now. Well, that's not what Judy's going to be doing this entire season, because you can rely on Flacco for all 17 games. You can't do that. There's no way. And by the way, I just showed you the board that said Moore had 33 points and Judy had 28. So you asked for my advice. I gave it to you. The board said Moore's the better player, the better value. It's up to you if you want to make the trade. And before I go, let me know what defensive players you have left on the waiver wire to pick up. So again, my Missouri, TCU, South Alabama, UNLV, in the NFL, Houston, Washington, Seattle. Those are the top ones, with Minnesota and the Chargers also in the mix. And the upsets, again, the NFL, there's only two that I like. Man, I don't know if I'm going to take them, though. I can't really tell you if I'm going to take them today. I guess if I did, I'd go with the Lions at plus 185, because they're the Lions. And I'd feel stupid if the Lions won and Carolina didn't, and I went with Carolina. So but again, it's Atlanta versus Baltimore. And then in the college upsets, there's a lot of them. So which ones am I going to officially go with? I'll go with Auburn. I think it's worth it. I'm definitely taking Illinois. Taking East Carolina. I'm taking North Carolina. And that's it for my regular upsets. My double-digit upsets, I'm taking Tulsa. And let's see. The other possibilities I have are Wyoming, West Virginia, Washington State, and Syracuse. Man, I can't see Clemson losing again, so I'm going to wipe that out. I still think it's possible. You never know. But check on Antonio Williams. Washington State. Man, they're just so much better than Washington and Washington State right now. Losing 2 years in a row, I'm going to say no. Still not a bad idea. I don't know. Wyoming beating Colorado. I don't know. I'll say West Virginia. That's the most logical one. Okay, so that's it. So it'll be Auburn, Illinois, East Carolina, North Carolina, and the double-digit upsets will be Tulsa and West Virginia. And you have everything there for the show, including we did a whole bunch of fantasy football stuff, which I didn't think that we were going to do. So I think, Z Smitty, are you done? Or is it taking you too long to get me that defensive information? Because I'm going to wrap up. And again, it does not look like there's any earth-shattering move here, any news, I should say, with Nico Collins. So I certainly hope he's okay. And we will, don't forget, be back tomorrow at 1 o'clock Eastern. Playbook ATS podcast. Mark hosts. I will be there. Andy Isco will be there. Jim will be off. He's taking the day off. He's got personal stuff he's got to handle. And then Friday, Mark, myself, Jim will be back together, hopefully at 2:30 Eastern time on Friday. And we'll have our last take on the weekend in the NFL and college football. That'll be on our Pigskin Friday show. Don't forget to look out also for Jim's videos with Andy Isco and Victor King. So they should be out in the next couple of days. Matter of fact, Jim might be recording Andy's tonight before he leaves tomorrow. So hopefully that goes down. We'll post that as early as tomorrow, maybe even tonight, if that is the case. And I believe that's it. We're talking horse racing also tomorrow, if you're into horse racing. So John Hardoon and I will be talking horse racing, membership only. That's at 7 o'clock Eastern time. And then I will handicap a race at probably 4 o'clock Eastern tomorrow, right around there. And that's usually, it's a way for us to preview the show at 7 o'clock and also just get another one in there for free for the viewers. And then I'll basically come back on Saturday around 5 o'clock for the NASCAR starting lineup report after qualifying and practice at New Hampshire. And that's actually the last show of the week. You can also check out Kevin Rogers and his NASCAR video. That'll be out early on Saturday. And then when I do my show on Saturday at 5 o'clock for the NASCAR race, I think that's it. That's usually the last show that ends the week here on Proline, because we don't usually do anything on Sunday yet. And that'll be it. So thanks for tuning in. And again, let me get this out of the way. Where was this one? All the way up here. There it is. Okay. So thanks for tuning in, and thanks for your interest and your questions. And we'll be back again next Wednesday and every Wednesday. And usually I come on right after Jim's restaurant show in Las Vegas. That supposed to air every Wednesday at 3 Eastern. So they had technical difficulties today, but they'll be back again next Wednesday at 3 o'clock. I come on right after and then do this. And I do this a lot shorter. I know we were on the air for over 2 hours, but usually it'll be an hour less than this, unless you guys got a bunch of questions. We have no problem going over and a bunch of other stuff. But that's going to wrap it up. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see everybody again real soon here. And make sure to subscribe, like, and share. All that stuff really helps us to grow as a channel and to provide you guys with as much free content as we can.